Hello, everyone. This is Sergeant First Class Brian Stoa from the Oklahoma City Recruiting Battalion. I am one of the Reserve Ops NCOs stationed there. This class is a part of a continuing series about Army Reserve specific products and processes. This particular class is what I like to call the Army Reserve baseline. This is what I think is the baseline knowledge that is needed to build upon to have full understanding of everything that the Army Reserve has to offer. So some of the things we'll cover here, some Army Reserve prospecting, benefits versus incentives, which I think is pretty good, pay and education, the insurance stuff, mobilization opportunities, VA benefits, things of that nature. All right, so what you're looking at here is a very poor artistry of a Venn diagram that I put together, but I think it really helps people to understand what we're looking at. So all the information that we are given, driven down from USAREC down to brigade S2s to battalion S2s, all the stuff that we have at our fingertips in BI zone and in the different reports that we can pull to help make the mission has everything to do with putting somebody into the regular Army and very little to do with putting somebody in the Army Reserve. There's just too many factors when it comes to the Army Reserve to be able to give you a true report to tell you what the hot zip code is for somebody joining the reserve. That extra piece is unit vacancies. Units fill up 1 year, stay filled up for a year or two, empty out the next year. BRAC moves happen. A lot of different things, mobilizations, lock down a unit for a year or more. And that's just too hard to predict to be able to figure out what areas are going to be the best for Army Reserve. So what we end up working to try to make that Army Reserve mission is that stuff in the overlap there between the Army Reserve market and the regular Army market. So understanding that the Army Reserve market, that target group is 17 to 29 versus the regular Army group being 17 to 24. There's a larger piece there that we're looking to target for the Army Reserve. It is a different type of person that joins the Army Reserve versus the regular Army. That little bit of overlap there, that's going to be the people who flip, the seniors that flip, after being in delayed entry program all year. Maybe they think the Army Reserve is a safer bet. The people that we just can't work, like single parents, different categories that are not open in the regular Army but are available in the Army Reserve, things of that nature. But there's a lot more to the Army Reserve market, that area in the blue, that can really help you make your mission. Now, if your station has, a single-digit Army Reserve mission, that green area is plenty. You guys can make it, just working in that area. If you have a double-digit reserve mission for the year, you need to be in the blue and you need to expand that market as much as possible. Okay, some common things that you can use. If you don't know where to start for Army Reserve prospecting, here's a list where you can get started. So that 90-day active duty APL. So starting at 91 days and beyond, give the active duty counterparts their time to close on their people. But after that, that's the best time to give them a shout and present the best Army Reserve option you can. There was, for whatever reason, they were interested in hearing what the Army had to offer, but they just didn't bite on what the active duty had. Whatever it is, it threw up some form of objection. It just wasn't fitting for them. So you come back to them with a good Army Reserve message and see if that's what can close the deal. And the same thing goes for the active duty T&E. They're essentially the same. There's something there that's stopping them from pulling the trigger. So come back with a good reserve message and see if that was their objection the whole time. College stop-out lists, if you can get them. I know those are extremely hard to get across the command. One way you can create your own is getting the fall semester on an Excel spreadsheet and then get the spring semester again sometime in November. Have somebody who's good with Excel figure out who's missing, figure out who was missing because of graduation and who just didn't reapply, And then that gives you a list to prospect from very specifically. Community college, obviously those are big. People go to community colleges generally to because of cost, can't afford the bigger college, or there was some, maybe they didn't have quite the grades or whatever. There was something stopping them from going to that big college, and most likely they're trying to move on to get there. So the Army Reserve can definitely help them with that. ROTC presentations, those are huge, very reserve specific. I'm not going to get too much into it in this presentation. That's a separate presentation, but that's a great way to expand into that blue. Army Reserve units, that's huge. But it's not just showing up to the reserve unit. For the first few years of my time as a recruiter, that's what I did, because that's what my first sergeant and my station commander would tell me to do, like get to your reserve units and get those referrals. But it just doesn't work like that. Like you got to work that, explain why it's their benefit to help you out there. One of the big ones is if they're providing your referrals, they're essentially picking their team, right? They get to pick the people that they work with. They're not just subject to whatever you bring. So that's a great way to present it to those people, to the company commanders there, and be able to get what you need out of it. Job fairs are good, but think about this. It's about how we do it, how we do things at the job fair. I recommend, if you're going Army Reserve specific prospecting, get out of your uniform. Do so in a khakis and polos type thing. Reason being, a little bit of experience with this. Last station that I ran, we went to a part-time job fair at the college. My whole station went. We were all there in our ACUs at the time, and nobody came and talked to us except for the couple of future soldiers we had at the college. A couple of my future soldiers were there wearing their Army t-shirts, and they were talking to a bunch of people throughout the event. And they're the ones that came to us and basically said we were setting up our own objection by wearing the uniform, because if we were there only for part-time, the 1 week in a month, why were we there in uniform on a Tuesday? So kind of our own marketing blemish there. We should have been in civilian clothes talking about what they would be doing on the weekend, and we wouldn't have thrown up an objection right away. So keep that in mind. There's some other options there too. Army Reserve flyers and the different things online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Big thing there, just make sure that you're putting up the right information, that you're validating GI Bills, current, things like that. Don't put up the last year's information. Don't put up the wrong information. All right, let's talk a little bit about benefits versus incentives. So benefits, something that everybody gets. An incentive is something special that not everyone will get, depending on the vacancy that they enlist for, the type of vacancy, things of that nature. So something that everybody gets. Select Reserve Montgomery JABL, as long as they enlist for 6 years, they get that. Tuition assistance and their base pay. So those are the benefits of joining the Army Reserve. Everybody gets those things. Different incentives are going to be your enlistment bonuses, your Select Reserve GI Bill kicker, and then your student loan repayment. So those all vary based on the type of vacancy, how well they do in the test, those sort of things. Pay, benefits. So I'm not going to beat this up too much. Everyone can look it up and see how much an E1 makes, to E4, how much they get for annual training and the yearly paycheck. The thing that I kind of want to highlight here is, one, that we're talking about the actual correct numbers. Two, keep in mind where you're at, where you're recruiting at. There are some areas that respond well to talking about salaries, and then there are some areas that are going to respond more to talking about the per hour rate. If the person that we're going after is all they've ever heard, is their parents at the dinner table, talking about they make, $17, $18 an hour, or they, just got a 35-cent raise an hour and what that means, that's going to resonate more to them than saying that they're going to make $200 on the weekend. So break it down. figure out how much the per hour is, and that's going to be more enticing to them. Most of the people we're going after, obviously, the high school, college market, they've never had a salary job anyway. They've only worked per hour, so talk to them about that. And if they're making, $9, $10 an hour now, when you start talking to them about making $14, $15 an hour, that's more appealing. It's real money in their head, and it's not going over their head. So keep that in mind. Kind of the same thing here too with the officer drill pay. I mean, as we can see, officers make quite a bit for the amount of service that they do in the Army Reserve. The thing that I really want to hit on this slide is with USAREC moving to a USAREC board for the regular Army and only a 20% selection rate. The thing to consider here is being able to get some of those guys back and put them into the Army Reserve as officers. Some of the kickback that I get, when I talk to people in my battalion about, presenting that option is, hey, so aren't they wanted, they want to be active duty. The thing to consider, though, for an Army Reserve officer is they're essentially going to be on active duty for the first 2 years. They're going to go to basic training. They're going to go to OCS. They're going to go to BOLC 1, BOLC 2, some instances BOLC 3. Some MOSs require them to go to additional schools, such as the engineers, requiring them to go to sapper school, things like that. There's a lot of schools that they can compound on to where their first 2 years are essentially on active duty. And then that'll give them the kind of the clout and resume to be able to move on and use their degree. So just kind of keep that in mind, present that. Everyone who gets submitted to USAREC is already approved for the Army Reserve. And since they did away with the letter of acceptance being needed in the latest version of UR 601210, it's much easier to place people into positions throughout USAREC. All right, talking a little bit about education benefits here, Select Reserve GI Bill. Obviously, have the correct amounts, how much you make full-time as a full-time student, part-time student, so on and so forth. The thing that I want to hone your attention on here, though, is we don't have to put everybody into that same going to state school box. And I find too often we do that. We try to package it up like they're going to go to Minnesota State University, or they're going to Kentucky State University, or they're going to Colorado State University, whatever the case may be. We just want to package it up into the typical brick and mortar for your college and university, and that's how we always want to present it. But that's not the plan that everybody has. Some people want to go to barber school. Some people want to go to beauty school. Some people want to go to just welding school. And too often we try to spin them into, going to our plan because that's the only way we know how to present the product. And it turns a lot of people off. So keep in mind that you can use a Select Reserve GI Bill for other things than just the prepackaged brick and mortar for your university. There's a website right there, the Weems on the VA website. If you go to that, there's a drop down and you'll have 4 different selections for different types of education. Your typical brick and mortar, your non-degree producing correspondence courses and flight school. And you select the one that you want, and then you click on your state, and it's going to give you all the options within your state for higher education. So you'll be able to find, if somebody says, I want to go to barber school, you'll be able to go onto that website and figure out which barber schools accept the GI Bill. So it's a great way to show your applicants, how they can use the benefits of the Army Reserve to achieve their goals. Right here, what we're looking at is the NOBE, Notice of Basic Eligibility. This is the form that is needed to initiate payments on the Select Reserve GI Bill. Once they're done with training, this form gets signed by the company commander and then gets taken to the local VA rep to initiate payments. They have to, when they bring this form, they have to bring their school registration, to show that they're registered in some way, shape, or form in some continuing education. Once that's done, it initiates those payments, and those payments will come with their battle assembly check each month. Education benefits, obviously the tuition assistance, it works the same way whether you're on active duty or in the Army Reserve. You're going to go through the GORM Ed portal. You're going to do the VIA, get approved, upload your class schedule, the whole works. It works exactly the same. Recommend to all recruiters that when you're talking to people about the Army Reserve, we know most likely they're joining the Army Reserve to continue their education. Log into GORM Ed and show them how to apply, how to get their benefits. It goes a long way for your applicant and their influencers. Conop is a big deal for Army Reserve. Once they've enlisted into the Army Reserve, you're able to go to these sites here on the bottom, find the list of colleges all over the United States to where you can get a letter of intent to enroll in those colleges. And this is a big deal for the Army Reserve. And some of you might be thinking, well, what's a letter of intent to enroll? Keep in mind, when somebody goes through basic combat training and AIT through the Army Reserve, they're going to get a transcript, Joint Service Transcript, or the JST. From that JST, they're able to turn that into those colleges. As soon as they do that, they become a transfer student versus just a regular person off the street. And transfer students have different requirements than somebody just off the street. Not all colleges play that rule, but keep in mind to the colleges that they're looking at. A lot of state schools have different rules for transfer students. They don't have to take a certain amount of entrance exams and things like that. So that's where this program really helps those who are enlisted in the Army Reserve. TRICARE Reserve Select. This is a big one. I found a lot of success in my last duty station with that. Once the Affordable Care Act became live and then the mandate of having insurance became real, I had a lot of people in my area whose employer plans were dropping, or they just had to go out and try to find it on their own. What I was able to do is I went on to healthcare.gov, went into the exchange, and I could show people the difference of what TRICARE Reserve Select could do versus the different insurances that were on the exchange. Recommend that you do that in your area as well so that you're familiar with it. And this can be a great tool, especially for that older part of the target market, that 25 to 29-year-olds, because those are the ones, through the Affordable Care Act that are having to get their own insurance, after they can't be on their parents' plan anymore. And they're kind of the ones looking to settle down, and close that gap. So it's definitely a benefit to them. This isn't something I'd go hard with talking to a 17-year-old. It doesn't make sense to them. They don't understand it. It's not something they feel they need at that time. Parents might want to hear it, so just kind of keep that in mind. Manage your expectations and know your audience as you explain it. Dental insurance is also a big one. Someone that in joining the Army Reserve can get. Most employer healthcare plans don't have some sort of dental insurance, so here's a way for them to get it. It's the same dental insurance plan that our dependents on active duty have. Exact same program. You can see there how much it costs, and that's pretty cheap versus enrolling in the dentist plan or trying to go out and get it on your own. Again, that's probably not what's going to entice them in, but it could be part of the closing deal. Civilian Job Help Partnership for Youth Success PAYS program. Great program. Gets them a job interview at the completion of training. Now up to 5 different companies. One suggestion that I was given by the PAYS people last year, TTP-wise, was once your person enlists in the Army Reserve and they've taken a PAYS partner, if that PAYS partner is close in your area, take them and introduce them. Get that meeting started right away. What they found was there's a high success rate of those in the Army Reserve being hired before they go to basic training. They might not start working yet, but they're getting hired ahead of time, creating that success story. It just kind of closes the loop, proves that the stuff that you are offering is real, and just kind of helps with that commitment. P3, this is a Army Reserve specific option. The private-public partnership, Army Reserve driven program. There is a representative for each area. Essentially as a headhunter. So if somebody in the Army Reserve needs a job, they get in touch with their local P3 rep, and they go out and help them build the resume and get it in front of different companies that they are partnered with. Similar to the PACE partnership, but they have a lot of different different businesses that they are partnered with in comparison to the PACE. So PACE is going to be something that's done beforehand, and this is kind of after they come back. So someone who's 17, enlists for college, does their 4 years of college, needs help after they have their degree finding a job. This is the program for them. Mobilization opportunities. This one's always good. Going to tour of duty, active duty on your time. That's how I always present it to my applicants. So anywhere from just a couple of weeks up to 1 year renewable orders can be found here. It's great. They can log in at home, search by their MOS or MOS in unspecific, like double golf positions, for the amount of time that they want to be on. So if they hit a rough patch in school, want to take spring semester off, go on, find themselves some 6-month set of orders, or they're just looking for a summer job between the spring and fall semesters, find themselves a 3-month order. Want to take a year off of school, hit some hard times, go on there, find some 1 year renewable orders. They find those kind of orders. It's a full PCS. I've known plenty of people in my career that have done this for years and upon years. Full PCS, go to Germany, move around kind of as they want to. You just reapply for different set of orders and move around that way. So it's a great way for soldiers to kind of keep that link and kind of go on active duty just as they see fit. Some of the veterans benefits, VA home loan, again, for that older group, that 25 to 29-year-olds, the ones that are, maybe they have a decent job in their area, but always wanted to serve or whatever, what's going to push them over the edge, understanding that the VA can back them up, get them that home loan that they want. That can be a closing deal. So understand how that works. Go to these websites, understand how the process works. One big change that's happened over the last few years, it used to be you had to complete your first 6 years with the Army Reserve before you were eligible. It's no longer the case. Just need a statement of service from the company commander. So it's kind of up to them when they want to present that to you. Usually after a couple of years, I would say that would probably be enough. Completely eligible after AIT. But that's all you need to get that thing going, and it's a great opportunity to kind of close the deal on that older group. All right, yeah, that's the end of this class. Hopefully, it was informative for you guys. If you have any questions, reach out to me. brian.j.stoa.mill@mail.mil. I'd be happy to help you out. Anything reserve-based questions that you might have. If you have any different ideas, based on the information you saw here, reach out to me. Let me know. We can always learn from each other.